Today we're walking the Jubilee Walkway section 2. It's also known as the Eastern Loop. It's a very straightforward route. Starts at Tate Modern, which is the old Bankside power station that closed in the 1960s with the Clean Air Acts and reopened in 2000 as a modern art gallery. It's now the third most visited in Britain and certainly has a large collection of post-1900 art. Just strolling down the south bank towards the Shard, you soon reach the Globe Theatre. It's actually the third Globe Theatre. The first one was just round the corner. It's about 5 minutes walk away, and that burnt down and was rebuilt, and now this one was rebuilt as a homage to Shakespeare's Globe and reopened in 1997. Just to the side here is a ferryman's seat where actually the Thames used to be a lot shallower and wider and much more tidal than it is today, and there used to be a ferryman here, so he would sit on that seat and wait for his fare. As we walk under Southwark Bridge, if you look towards the river on the far side there where there's an office block is where the River Walbrook used to come into the Thames, and it still does through a pipe. Next, that's Cannon Street Station. You can see the rear with the railway bridge over, which comes next to the Anchor Inn, which is the last surviving inn from Shakespeare's time. It was rebuilt in 1676, but supposedly Shakespeare used to drink here, and it's where the diarist Samuel Pepys wrote his diary entry about the Great Fire of London. Here's Clink Alley, and there's actually the Clink Museum with the skeleton hanging outside. Being sent to prison used to be called being in clink, and it's slang reference to that famous prison in London. Here we have the Winchester Palace, which is the last surviving room. This is the banqueting hall, the piece you can see. It's an English heritage site, but it's free to visit. You just walk past, you can't really go into it. And it's where the Bishop of Winchester had his London palace. Here's a replica of the Golden Hind, which was Sir Francis Drake's main ship from 1577 to 1580, and where he was knighted by Queen Elizabeth I. Here, just a quick view. There's a lovely pub here. I'd recommend it for the fish and chips on a Friday. But moving swiftly on as we turn the corner, Southwark Cathedral, which is a really beautiful Gothic masterpiece straight in front of us. If you were to turn right, you get into Borough Market, which is an excellent market for fresh food going back to Roman times. But we'll come round the side of Southwark Cathedral and give you a quick view of that and the Shard. As we head over, pop over to the river here. That's London Bridge. That's the bridge which, when it was getting unsuitable for traffic in 1968, was sold by auction to an American who thought he was buying Tower Bridge, and it's now in Lake Havasu City in Arizona. Today there's a more modern bridge, and although it does look quite old and in keeping with the rest of most of London's bridges, there is a spike sticking out of one end like a sundial, which we just missed there, and that's actually one of the anchor points. Here's St Olaf's House. It was built on the site of St Olaf's Church, hence the name, but it's now part of the London Bridge Hospital. And just sneaking round the side here, there's a little corridor that makes its way back through to the Thameside path, and very striking views of modern London from here. You can see the Walkie Talkie Tower, the NatWest Tower, all the famous ones in the city of London. And it's a beautiful stretch to walk along on a sunny day because there's a bit of shade here. There's this London Bridge Pier, and coming up ahead you can see Tower Bridge and HMS Belfast. HMS Belfast is the last surviving of the British heavy cruisers from the Second World War. Has a colourful history. They were there bombarding on D-Day, the Normandy beaches. Fought in Korea, was involved with the sinking of the Scharnhorst. Now it's a museum. Just pop in here to Hayes Galleria with a famous sculpture. I believe it's the Voyagers. They were cleaning it when I was here. And if you're looking for a old school British red telephone box, there's one or two at the back there. But coming back out of Hayes Galleria, which used to be a dock, a lot of this stretch was docks. Now it's fancy restaurants and bars and cafes. There's HMS Belfast again with two main guns at the front. You can see the anti-aircraft guns on the side. It's part of the Imperial War Museum. And unlike the Imperial War Museum that we visited a couple of months ago, it does charge. But you can sit and eat in the officers' mess, I believe. And it's a striking, very important piece of British naval history, sitting in the middle of London, in the Pool of London. There's the Great Tower of London in the background there, built by William the Conqueror himself shortly after the conquest of 1066. On this side, this is the seat of the London Assembly. That's where the London Mayor sits. And you can't tell there, that was actually a PBY Catalina, a Second World War aircraft just randomly flying over central London as we took a stroll through. This area is called More London back there. If you turn to the right, there's a lovely business area with a few cafes and bars and a lot of big businesses. But we're going to keep going, coming up on Tower Bridge. One of really the iconic sites of London. You can't really come to London without visiting Tower Bridge. Again, that's also a museum, and there are queues of people to go up and go into the engine room. You can go up the steps on this side, but we're going to cross through to the slightly quieter side and head up these steps up here, which lead you through to the bridge itself. It's a beautiful bridge. It's a drawbridge. It opens, and there is a schedule. You can see when it's opening. Over there on the right hand side, you can see all of the old docks that have been converted into apartments and fancy business renting spaces. And here, if you look on the top there, you see a blue chimney. That's actually from the old steam engine that used to power the opening of the bridge. It's all been electrified now. And if you're brave, you can go up onto the very top of the bridge and walk along a glass walkway so you can see down, and I've shot wonderful views of the surrounding area. Opened in 1894, but a timeless classic, calling back very much to the Tower of London there by the side. And although we're heading away from it, don't worry, we're coming back past the Tower of London shortly. But we're going to head down these steps. One of the best views of Tower Bridge is actually from down here, where there's the statue of the mermaid and the dolphin, and it's quite popular on a sunny day like today. You get a good perspective of it. And it's the picture we used as the thumbnail to this video. Beautiful spot. I always mean to come here for sunrise, but I've never made it yet. So we're heading now down into St Catherine's Dock, which is an old docks again, but it's been done up as a marina, and it's fancy restaurants, hotels, some businesses, and there's a lovely pub. If you're down this way, the Dickens that we'll be going past is excellent, especially in the evening on a summer's day. People stand outside and have a drink. Quite good food inside as well. And there's a lot of fancy boats docked here. I'm not sure I'd come to London by boat, but certainly some people do. And it's cobbled and kept quite a bit of its feeling. It's a good spot to watch the London Marathon, or certainly a very popular one. Here's the Dickens Inn. Now, I have been told that Charles Dickens drank there, but I can tell you that's definitely not true for a number of reasons. It was actually either a tea factory or a brewery. There seems to be a mixed history on it. But it was actually opened as a pub by Charles Dickens's grandson in 1976. It was Cedric Charles Dickens. Then we follow down here. If you look closely over the far side next to that sort of Grecian inspired cover is a barge, quite difficult to really make out on the camera here, but it's actually one of the barges that was rowed down the river on the Queen's Jubilee. And lovely offices here. I had the opportunity to visit a client here many years ago, and it's got a calm and a chill that a lot of London lacks. We make our way over here towards the tower. There's a series of underpasses here. There's actually some plaques with the history of St. Catherine, which goes back many centuries. Actually, David Mellor lives there apparently. Now, walking past the side of the Tower of London, and you can see the Great Moat. The moat is always quite varied. You never know what you're going to get. A few years ago there was a flood of poppies to commemorate the First World War. At the moment they seem to be building a pond with a little waterfall. That's the old postern gate of the Norman fortress. It's a beautiful castle and really deserves its own video to talk about it, because there's a lot there. It's not exactly a small site, and obviously it's got 1,000 years of history. Over there, one of the largest First World War memorials. And ahead of us, All Hallows by the Tower, where the American president Quincy Adams was married, and founded in 675 AD. Back there was one of the dragons that tell you you're entering London. As you enter the city of London, as opposed to London, you'll see a series of dragons on all the roads in. Here's the quite creatively named Hung, Drawn and Quartered pub. It claims to be iconic. I must say I've never drunk there, but it is a great name for a pub next to Tower of London. We're heading towards the Walkie Talkie Tower, or Sky Garden, which is a must-see if you're in London and want to get a great view of London, and particularly if you want a free view of London. Sky Garden is a must. We're weaving our way through the city of London now, making our way towards the Bank of England. You can just snatch a view of the Shard down the side road there, and that's actually at the bottom is the church where Dick Whittington was buried, because Dick Whittington was a real person. It's not just a myth about him and his cat. He actually was multiple times Mayor of, or Lord Mayor of London. There's a difference between Mayor of London, which is an elected and political role, and Lord Mayor of London, which represents the City of London. That's the monument we just saw to the left there. It's a monument to the Great Fire of London of 1666, and it's very close to the site where the fire actually started. If you just head one street over from there to Pudding Lane, there's a plaque on the wall where the fire actually started, and it really destroyed the great majority of London, because it was a wooden city back then. Led to a lot of regulations and really moving towards building everything with stone, and the city that we recognise today. And particularly we'll be going past, or very close to later, St Paul's, which was rebuilt by Christopher Wren after the Great Fire of London. We also walked past, most of the churches we walked past on this route were built by Sir Christopher Wren, or rather rebuilt after they were destroyed in the Great Fire of London. Here we're heading towards the Bank of England. The Bank of England's the large building there to the left, and the rather splendid building ahead is the Royal Exchange. This is the Mansion House, which is the official residence of the Lord Mayor of London. And over there, 1 Poultry Street, probably my favourite modern building in central London, or certainly in my top 5. It sort of looks like a boat made out of rose marble from the front. This is the Bloomberg building, opened about 10 years ago. Beautiful masterpiece of a building, beautiful if you ever get a chance to go inside. And when they were building it and they found the Mithraeum, there's actually a free museum underneath, which unfortunately you're not allowed to video in. On the other side of the Bloomberg building is this fountain, which, well, it's very striking, but I have to say it always looks a bit dirty, and it's by design, that is how it looks. Ahead of us, the triangular 30 Cannon Street building. It's an office block, but I love the curve of the windows in it. It's a very Art Deco but modern, let's say. And heading down past a series of interesting office blocks. Lovely little park on the left. It's a bit hidden away. You think at first there's just a row of benches, but if you go round the corner, there's a series of staggered fields and gardens there. Another Wren church on the right, the St Nicholas Cole Abbey, and to the left, just round the corner, there's another that was entirely destroyed in the Blitz, and all that's left of it is the tower, but the tower's preserved. To the right you can see St Paul's, and if you take a little glance slightly to the side of that is the College of Arms. There you can see the tower I was talking about as the only piece that's surviving, unfortunately. Now we're on to the Millennium Footbridge, drawing to the end of the second section of the Jubilee Walkway. Stunning views towards Canary Wharf and the Shard and Tower Bridge on one side, and down to the other you can see down towards Parliament. And as the building to the left of the bridge ahead of us is, it's sometimes called the Pregnant Lady. It's, I think, 101 Southwark Bridge. If you ever watched the Mission Impossible where Tom Cruise runs across the bridge and jumps in a lift to the top of this tower to catch a helicopter and misses it, that's the bridge he ran across, the one opposite. It's the longest solar powered bridge in Europe. And then we're at Tate Modern and we finished the loop. I hope you've enjoyed that little walk around London. Next week we'll be going to section 3 with the Guildhall, the Roman walls and a Barbican. So please do like and subscribe and join us next week.